Hello and welcome to Chat Show. Today we're talking to Julie Kent, who has been recognised for her amazing charitable endeavours. In 2020, Julie was awarded an MBE by Prince William at Windsor Castle on behalf of Queen Elizabeth in recognition for all of the work that she's done for charity, a lot of it voluntary. And today she is going to tell us a little bit about that and her sort of charitable background, and how that has led her to where she is today. So Jeannie, if you'd like to sort of kick off by telling us how you got involved in all the charity work that you did.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on, Lucy. All of my charity work is voluntary, actually. Never been paid to do any charity work.
Amazing.
And got into it because our first daughter, when she was about 2.5, well, our only child at the time, we noticed she was falling over, and we took her to an optician to see if she was seeing properly. And then went to an eye specialist, and then went to the hospital, and she had a brain tumor in the size of a tennis ball in the back of her head, and she was only 2.5.
That must have been a really hard pill to swallow, healing that out.
Yeah, to be honest, when you're told it, it's like you're in a dream. I remember the very first night being in Frenchay Hospital, which was old then, not like it is now. And I was led there, woke up in the morning, and I thought, I'm going to open my eyes and this isn't going to be real. This is going to be a dream.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Each day, really, at the beginning, you can't really process it all. It's a bit unreal. And, they say, oh, well, the worst case scenario is, the fluid could be traveling down her spine. And then 2 days later, you find out it is. And then she had an operation. And after they did the operation, they put a sort of shunt in the front of her head. So it's like a little lump. And she didn't walk herself after that, because that's the trouble with the brain. It's all too close to everything.
It controls everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, so they couldn't operate really, because and the tumor was probably too big as well. I mean, this is a lot.
Tried to help, but it was a bit.
Yeah.
It must have been so hard.
And you can't really think, oh, I wonder when she got it. You don't know how much of that 2.5 years. She was always quiet.
Yeah.
She was lovely. She was easy. So you just don't know how long she'd had it, and whether, well, you couldn't have done anything anyway. Brain tumours in children is not a great result generally. So that started us, and when she died, we had about 6 months of treatment, mainly in Bristol and at Gloucestershire Royal Hospital. And then she died, and we started a charity because you're kind of at a loss.
I was going to say, you must have wanted her life to mean something, and
Yeah.
like you say, you lose that sense of purpose, don't you? So
Yeah, at the time, every time she had chemo, we couldn't get her scanned to see if that chemo had done anything, because children that age have got to be anaesthetised to go through the scanner.
right.
And at Bristol, they only had one machine, and they could never get her a slot. So when she first died, we decided to raise money for anaesthetic equipment, to get another set of equipment, so that children could be scanned more.
Okay.
And that was going to be it. And we were just going to do that full stop. But it kind of built momentum. I was teaching a lot of kids at home and at different schools then. And all the parents, obviously, they were shocked, because they used to come to our house, sit and play with her while I was teaching their children. And so it affected a lot of people, not just us, my family, because she was the first grandchild of my mum and dad. It affected my sisters, my whole family.
Yeah.
So everyone wanted to do something.
Yeah. So you arranged a lot of fundraising for with Bristol and Gloucester Royal Hospital?
Yeah, because they were building a new children's hospital in Bristol. So we gave them 50,000 in the notice. And there was a unit there called the Emily Kent unit and bone marrow transplant.
Okay.
But that's not there. I mean, they're talking, for 28 years ago.
Yeah.
And now that's changed its name. It's called the Ocean Ward in Bristol.
Okay.
But we also, Piper, were raising money to build the new children's hospital at Gloucester,
Right.
which is now the children's centre. It's sort of bolted onto the side of the hospital. And they approached us and said, would you donate some money to the Piper?
Yeah.
And we said we would. We'd give them 50,000 if the children's cancer unit was named the Emily Kent unit. And it is still today.
which was lovely.
So it is a really
An amazing achievement. You've raised 50,000 for Bristol as well as Gloucester Royal. So, and that's purely for children's centres.
we really raised it for children with cancer. So I remember a young girl, she was about 9. She'd had a tumour and she wasn't walking. And so they wanted to get her a sort of buggy that didn't look too childlike. And they found one, and so we bought that. And there was another girl who had been off school for a long time. She struggled with her finger movements, so we bought her a laptop when she went back to school. So it was anything to do with children and cancer in Gloucestershire. We didn't generally go as far as Bristol. We gave Bristol that money because we'd spent a lot of time there, but generally it was all for Gloucestershire as it is now. Yeah,
Amazing. And what led you to be given your MBE by Prince William? That must have been quite an amazing achievement and quite an experience to be invited to Windsor Castle to receive that from Prince William. Tell us a bit about how you came to do that.
Well, it was a long time after. So if you think Emily died in 1995, and we then moved into, so we had the charity, then we had a son, and then we had a daughter, and we closed the charity.
Okay.
Because I felt like we needed to concentrate on them.
Yeah.
And doing balls and everything, there'd be a great big picture of Emily looking gorgeous. And then before the auction, so people were like, we need to give money. I just felt that we needed it. It wasn't helping us move on. Andy had 2 children then, so we closed it. We moved into Dean Close.
Okay.
And I ran boarding house for 60 teenage girls, which is a whole other podcast, living with 60 teenage girls. But it was great fun. And I retired in 2020. So I'd done 30 years, and my 90th term, the whole school was empty because obviously we shut down in March, and this was June, July. And I was at my computer, and an email came up, and it was just capital letters and numbers. And I thought, oh gosh, this could be something that's, dodgy. And I thought, shall I open it or not? Good job I did. And clicked on it. And it was just the Cabinet Office. And it said, on behalf of the Queen, we would like to award you the Member of the British Empire. And I kept reading it, thinking, oh my word, is this real? And I ran downstairs actually to tell my husband because I was so excited. And he was on the phone to the pensions guy or something. And he was like clapping his arm to say, this is very important, my conversation. Don't interrupt. I was thinking, this is really important. And then I thought I was a bit moody then. And when he came off the phone, he went, what was it? Oh, nothing. You left. And it said, if you accept, some people don't accept. And if you accept it, I think maybe it was a simple something. Yeah. Fill in the form below, but you can't tell anyone. And because of COVID,
Right, so this was during COVID.
yeah,
Okay.
we are not releasing it. Normally, you would get to hear 2 or 3 weeks before it was being announced to the press. But they because it was the Queen's birthday honours, it was June.
Okay.
And it said, you can't tell anyone because we are waiting to give out more awards to people who have gone over and beyond in COVID.
Right.
So you're not allowed to tell anyone until we let you know where, which ended up being October. So I was kind of, oh my gosh. And then, even though it was announced in the press then, in 2020, we didn't get the letter to go and collect it until 2022, February 2022. And we went to Windsor Castle, and the guy there, he said, actually, it's a much nicer service because normally you go to Buckingham Palace and there could be, I don't know, 100 odd people in the room. And you could be, Bern, my husband, could have been rows back.
Yeah.
But we went to the Gold Room in Windsor Castle, and literally they called my name. I walked in. They make you practice doing a curtsy as well. Curtsies are not what you think. Well, we all think we can do a curtsy, we see. You practice that?
Not really. Probably not since my days of ballet and bowling at school on stage.
But I always thought a curtsy, you put your leg like diagonally back.
Yeah.
But for royalty, your leg has to go immediately back behind you. Well, I had stilettos on. I was thinking, this could go really bad. So we had to practice that before we went in. So they call your name. I walk in to this blue mat, and I have to stand on the blue mat. Or did he stand on the blue mat? Anyway, and then there was a blue mat there.
It's quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah, and I stand in front of it. Then once he steps onto the blue mat is when he starts speaking to you. And we didn't know who it would be until we got there.
Okay.
And when the lady who's taken our coats, Burns said to the lady, "Oh, do you know who it is today?" And they said, "Yeah, it's Prince William." And I was like, "Oh my God." I cried at everything. When we arrived at Windsor Castle, I was like, tears and oh, bless her. He said, "Get a grip on yourself." I was like, it was just auto-emotional. And then, so I did my curtsy, stood forward, and the first thing he said, as he was putting my medal on me, he said, "Tell me about the MB Kent Trust."
Oh, yeah.
And so I just said a few things, and then he said, "Do you only fundraise in Gloucestershire?" And I said, "Well, generally, yes." I said, "I am supposed to be retired, but there are a few things that I'm going to get involved in." I said, "My husband is probably going to go mad." And he laughed. We got a lovely picture of Prince William and I laughing. And Byrne was at the fireplace behind this corner, so he could see absolutely everything. Whereas, if we'd have been at Buckingham Palace, it might not have been like that. So,
And I think it's amazing you've been recognised for all of your hard efforts within fundraising because, like you say, so much of it being totally voluntary. Obviously, off the bat, something that's happened something tragic that's happened in your lives, but to turn that into something positive and to give so much back to other people is really commendable. So well done for that. And then you went on to do a lot of work with Pied Piper.
yeah. So ironically, once we closed the Emily's gift, Emily's charity day, Pied Piper approached me about being a trustee, and I said, "Oh, I haven't got time." I was looking after 60
Girls are busy. And I said, Rashid, you stood your own as well.
Although living in a boarding school was quite handy because they did everything that the boarders did.
Yeah, so that's what we were.
Yeah, they were really. And food, we ate in school, so that was brilliant.
Yeah.
But I said, I can't really do very much. And he said, "You only have to attend 3 meetings a year or 4. And then once I became a trustee, I said, "Right, give me something to do. Otherwise, I feel a bit like I shouldn't be a trustee." And he said, "Well, our social media, I think we had 200 followers or something." And he said, "We don't really do very much." I said, "Okay, I'll take that on." And started to do that. And I love social media anyway. So got involved in that. And then I became the vice chair. And then I was sort of going into the office a lot. So the girls had someone to chat to. And in COVID then, our fundraiser had just resigned and gone back to recruitment, actually. And I said to our chairman, "I'll oversee the fundraising and the office," because I was about to retire. And
That's a huge undertaking.
yeah, but it was great because other charities had furloughed everyone, including their media people. So they couldn't even put anything on social media. So I could keep Pied Piper out there, which was brilliant. And we were still in the boarding house till July, and we did a pop quiz on Facebook Live. So I've got all my gear set up. And I would, before I'd say something like, "What year was this song written?" And I would sing a bit of Fleetwood Mac or something. And people were watching Facebook Live. And so and they were saying, "Oh, hi, so-and-so." And of course, we said, "Don't give out the answers," because they were all doing it at home. It became quite a big thing.
Did you get very involved in the sort of the events fundraising side?
Yeah.
Yeah, so leading on events and all sorts of different types of events, I'd imagine. Because you can do all sorts to it in charity, can't you?
Yeah, we did online quizzes. We did to start with, because we didn't know how long it was going to go on, did we? Parents were, if your child is ill, you literally grab your car keys and you go to hospital. So you don't think about food, you don't think about clothes, you don't think about anything. So to start, and the shops weren't open in the hospital. So our very first, I remember speaking to another lady involved in the charity. I said, "I think we should do find a fiver." Everyone's skint. Nobody knows what's happening. People are furloughed. They haven't got any money. I said, even if we got 100 people to give us a fiver, that would buy some crossword books. Children couldn't, the toy room was closed. The playroom was closed at the hospital. All toys, once they played with them, had to be chucked because of infection.
Yeah.
And so we started this find a fiver. We opened this, it's onto our Just Giving page, and we just wanted to buy colouring books, crayons, because they were all going in the tin, testing muscle views.
Yeah.
And for parents, snack boxes and things like that, because they had nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what we started with. And then, of course, as it went on and on, we just thought up different things that were going to bring us in some money.
Yeah, amazing. Okay. So had quite a long career with Pied Piper.
Yeah, still that.
Still so well.
10 years on.
Yeah, and is there anything particular you'd like to talk about? Sort of fast forward sort of to today. What are you getting involved in at the moment? Because obviously you say you've retired, so not working in base anymore.
No.
And Pied Piper, you're still actively involved in that.
Yeah.
But what's your kind of focus today?
Well, my focus is still going around thanking people. For last year, I raised $500,000 in 1 year
That's incredible.
to fund a psychologist just on the children's cancer unit. So the children's cancer unit is called the Emily Kent unit,
Okay.
and there's about 37 children having cancer treatment in Gloucestershire. Some of those children are having chemo, radio, lumbar punctures for 3 years with leukemia. So that's a long time for mums to possibly have 2 other children and dads, sorry dads. But for the family unit to maybe have 2 kids that have got to do normal things, and another child that's going to have all this treatment,
And for the children to come to terms with the fact that they've got cancer.
yeah, the brothers and sisters especially, they often keep quiet while all the treatment's going on, and then it comes out later on, in some way that
Yeah.
they go into themselves, and because it's been traumatic for them too. And so the psychologist, they said to me, could you fund a psychologist? And I said, okay. And she already, the best thing, I mean, when I said,
They're like conscious to support the children and the families, yeah, when the children are diagnosed with cancer.
yeah, so the minute sometimes she could be in the appointment when they tell them,
Right.
or she might see them after,
Right.
or some that are in remission.
Yeah.
And some, they then, when they're in remission, go back every 6 months or a year for their scan. She might see them then.
And what sort of support do they offer? Is it sort of talk therapy?
Yeah.
Counselling?
She's a psychologist, so she gives them strategies to use when they're coping with really horrible treatment.
Yeah. So coping strategy. Yeah.
But
also,
I mean, I read a lot about, what makes you successful, blah, blah, blah. I was talking about it to someone the other day, and when I hit that target, I actually didn't have the elation I thought I was going to have.
because that's an amazing target.
I know, and it nearly killed me, Lucy, on Saturday. I went to every business, breakfast, lunch, evening. But I didn't have that. When we got there, I didn't feel it. But then, as the parents started to, like last week, I had a text. Julie, X has seen Dr. Justine today, just to let her say how she's feeling, how she offloaded. Is absolutely amazing. That gives me that feeling where,
You're helping people.
yeah, and our loss is helping so many other BOs. So, she didn't have that little life in Maine. It's just helped so many people.
Just like giving back.
Yeah. So that's done, and I'm still trying to get around loads of people to thank them because it was hundreds of people that donated. And in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be the High Sheriff of Gloucestershire, which nobody knows what it is. Well,
No, so that sounds a very important person. Can you tell us a bit more about what that actually means in layman's terms?
yeah.
In a normal world.
In the normal world, although it's not very normal, I will be the King's representative in Gloucestershire for all the judicial services. So I will go to the police and thank them for doing a great job.
Okay.
I can go to court whenever I want to.
Okay.
And we've been to court on a Friday morning. It was really interesting. Yeah.
So which court is that?
The Crown Court in Gloucester.
Okay. And they deal with what kind of?
Oh my word. Well, there were 6 cases that morning. And a couple of them were reviews because Judge Laurie, who's our Gloucestershire judge for the Crown Court, he isn't the kind of judge who just wants to throw everyone into prison. He really wants to try and help people. There were 4 different cases of men that had stalked, aggressive to their female partners. And so a couple were being reviewed, and he hadn't sent them to prison. I didn't know the absolute details of what they'd done, but it was serious enough that they were on community service, they paid a fine, and he was talking about another session that they go to. I imagine it would be like Alcoholics Anonymous, but they sit round and they talk about their aggression towards their wives or whatever. The one guy, he was 4 months on and he was doing really well. And his probation officer is there with him as well. And, it was very interesting because you just think, they just say, right, so you're in jail for however long. So that doesn't help, because quite often these men have not had good relationships with anyone, mothers, fathers, anything. And so they don't really know what they're treating. We're punishing and locking them up for 20 hours a day.
Prisons are probably overwhelmed as well.
Yeah, well, there's ways. So it was interesting seeing that. He did sentence someone who was caught with drugs, moving it from Swindon to Stroud, and was caught with a whole load of drugs in the car. So he did fine him, and he's got sent back to where he came from. But it was all very interesting. But my mainly
Insightful then, learning what you're learning.
yeah, really. And what I would like to focus on in my year is raising awareness of the amount of children that are excluded from school.
Sure.
Coming from the education background and hearing that research shows that a lot of those children that are excluded, and the numbers are rising.
Is it children who are expelled? Or?
Yeah, it was called expelled when we were at school, wasn't it? But now it's called exclusion. Sometimes it's temporary exclusion, so they might exclude them just for a term, or half a term, and try and send them to it's called alternative provision, and try and get them back into their school. Sometimes the schools say, no, we don't want to take them anymore for whatever reason.
It must be hard for them to get into another school.
Yeah.
Excluded.
Yeah. My concern is,
So what happens to those kids? They sort of slip into that. Do they have to be homeschooled or?
no, they go to we've got about 5 or 6 in Gloucestershire where those units focus on them, give them more time.
Okay. So is this like a sort of spale school or?
They're called alternative provision.
Right. Okay. And whereabouts are they based?
All over the county.
Okay.
Yeah. They're not really shouted about. I'm going to go and visit them all.
Okay.
And I know quite a few people that work in them.
Okay.
But my concern is that if we don't help them, they will end up in the judicial system as well.
Absolutely.
So, I'd like to raise awareness.
Their confidence if they're sort of expelled or, like you say,
excluded. Excluded is what I call it now.
And so it's, I guess, building their confidence up to a point whereby they do actually still feel enthusiastic about learning and
And I do believe they will have skills. They could be amazing guitarists. They might be able to write songs. They might not be able to, I've got, my daughter is ADHD. She struggles to concentrate. But they will all have a skill, and it's finding that they, and then, feel good about themselves doing that, isn't it? So again, another big learning curve for me, but that's but I'm going to do that, and I'm going to visit loads of charities, and hopefully have a really good year.
that sounds amazing. So that's your focus now.
Yeah.
And
My hat. My big focus is my outfit.
and that's so kind of feels the ceremony coming up quite soon, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's in the cathedral, and
So that's Gloucester Cathedral.
yeah, and sometimes people pass down their outfits.
Okay.
But my outfit, my dress and my coat is being made by the ladies at the Friendship Cafe on Barton Street.
Okay.
And my hat is being made by Lisa Von Hyvel. So I'm actually just trying to get shoes in a bag that match at the moment. So, and I'm putting it all on my social media in black and white. So people, the colour for Emily's gift was purple. So for a year, I wore a lot of purple. I've got loads of purple jumpers. We had purple pins.
Yeah.
And so I've been putting my outfit on black and white on my social media, and people are guessing what colour it will be. So, yeah. And the ladies normally have a hat to match their coat with lots of white feathers on it. Because I might be going rogue.
Oh.
So we'll see.
Okay, well, we look forward to seeing your outfit. We'll have to keep us posted. We'll have a look at your social media and see.
Yeah.
Well, it's been absolutely delightful to talk to you today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
And yeah, you can obviously follow Julie on her social media and see what she's been up to. I'm sure there will be more charitable endeavours in the future. With Pied Piper and the work that you do as
High Sheriff.
of Gloucestershire. So thank you so much for your time. It's been delightful, and we'll keep watching, and we look forward to seeing you on the next podcast.